So we've been doing these Inspirato Pass trips to exotic locations every month. And if you saw my recent video on Reagan's scuba training, you know that I've started this tradition of diving with her anytime we go to a tropical location. And so far, that's been every month. Now, since one of our family core values is experiences over possessions, it's activities like this that are really going to build these amazing memories as our children grow up. Now, even though Reagan did her primary scuba training here in Denver, we decided to leverage that upcoming Costa Rican trip to do her 4 open water certification dives. Now, if you don't already know, these certification dives are in a whole different class than the pool dives we do here in Denver. For one thing, you've got to deal with things like maybe different water temperatures, currents, poor visibility. You've got the depth to deal with. In this case, we were as deep as 67 feet. And there can be a lot of anxiety that goes along with that as you're trying to do these training exercises with the risk being that you don't actually pass. But Reagan was taking the entire thing in stride. In fact, she didn't seem to care about the certification part at all.
I just want to see sharks.
So Inspirato hooked us up with this local training center and dive shop. It's called Rich Coast Diving, and they had something besides sharks that Reagan was interested in. So Reagan's instructor and my guide for the next 2 days was a guy named Alejandro. He was a real pro. He walked us down to the beach where we got on this little boat that was going to take us to this bigger boat. He was quizzing Reagan the entire time, but her answers were always the same.
I just want to see sharks.
Once we were on the boat, Reagan had to walk through some exercises and equipment set up with Bo to make sure everything was ready to go. And then Reagan entered the water with her very first back roll. As I followed Reagan and Alejandro and Bo down below, I was really struck by the differences in the water color. It would go from this very deep green to this very clear blue. I always prefer the blue, but the visibility maxed out at about 25 feet, which certainly isn't great, but the water temperature was pretty darn good for this time of year, so that was a plus. Now, there actually aren't that many exercises that go into the certification piece of these dives. And if you consider the fact that we have 4 dives, 4 tanks, 40 minutes or so each, that's a lot of time where a great student like Reagan can demonstrate proficiency, and then it frees everybody up to be able to explore the ocean and sea life. So we're halfway through our 4th and final dive when this little voice pops into my head.
I just want to see sharks.
And right on cue, Alejandro gives us that universal military signal for enemy contact. 20 feet away, there were 2 white-tipped sharks that looked like they were sleeping, which is of course the best kind of sharks. And after inching closer and closer until we finally woke them up, like the a-hole humans we are, we were running low on air, so it was time to head back up to the surface. It may not have been my favorite water conditions, but the sea life was still unbeatable. Some of the other divers who were with us went down, and final dive, they saw like 3 octopi. We somehow missed them. But between the close-ups of the turtle, all the rays, and of course the sharks, we were happy with our experience. And since we've already booked next month's trip to one of the top dive sites on the planet, we're stoked for these scuba experiences to just keep getting better and better.
Beautiful, yeah. It works.
Remote work, remote school, and Inspirato Pass help us travel to these exotic locations every month. To learn more about those programs and how much they cost, go to followabc.com/pass. And we're constantly posting new videos, new experiences, and giveaways. things like fancy cocktail shakers or Mavic drones. So to make sure you're one of the first to know, go to followabc.com and join our inner circle.